We're going to go live here in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another Chat and Learn here with Power to Fly. This is one of my favorite series. Of course, I'm biased because I support queerness and just I want the world to be more queer in general. So we're talking about Pride all year long, and we have a very special guest speaker here today that I'm going to introduce in just a few moments. But before we get started, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping rules so that we all feel comfortable and confident in this next hour. Of course, I don't need to remind you all, crazy things going on in the world. You could be doing anything else with your time, but you're deciding to spend this hour with us. So with that said, we would love for you to participate. And you can participate in a number of ways. You can turn your cameras on if you feel called to do so. We believe in visibility. This is a safe digital space. I really pride myself in holding safe digital spaces because, as we know, there aren't many available to us. So please just be reassured. I'm not afraid to kick people out of this session if we have anyone being disrespectful, but I know that everyone will be respectful, so I'm not worried there. So turn your cameras on if you feel called to do so. Otherwise, we would love to have you write in the chat box. I see we've got folks already writing in the chat box, letting us know where they're calling from. So we got Bogota, Colombia representing, we got Chicago, we got Pennsylvania, Buenos Aires, Argentina, we got San Martin de los Andes, Argentina. So let us know where you're calling from. You can just drop that in the chat box. I'll give you all a shout out shortly here. Otherwise, as we roll through our presentation and go through these awesome questions that you all have submitted previous to the conversation, if you don't hear your question come up, or if you have a question come to mind as our guest speaker is dropping knowledge, feel free to drop those questions in the chat box and we will raise that in our live session here today. I've muted everyone upon entrance just to avoid any background noise. But again, I can't stress, we want to hear from you. We want to give everyone the chance to share their voice. So if you had a dream last night that you want to share, you are more than welcome to share that. If you have any tips and tricks of your own, please share that as well. We do want to hear from you. And again, let's really maximize this time that we're here together for the hour. The last thing I'll say is if you do hop off mute, you will be featured in our live recording as this is being recorded. If you signed up for this chat, be looking out for a rewatch email that will have a link to this recorded video, and then it'll have any resources that our guest speaker highlights throughout the hour so that you can access those resources, and then also so you can share this video with family, friends, colleagues, and community. And we would love to have you follow us on socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep up with all the great chats we've got in store for you. Now, if this is your first time joining where I'm moderating, I would like to take a couple seconds to introduce myself before I pass the mic to our guest speaker. So my name is Mariela Marie, as I mentioned before. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I currently live in San Martin de los Andes in Patagonia in Argentina. And I love speaking about the importance of emotional intelligence at work, at home, and in our communities in general. So I might bring some of my reflections to that point. If anyone wants to philosophize with me on developing emotional intelligence, feel free to do so by dropping those comments or reflections in the chat box, or again, hopping off of mute. I also invite you all to support the project that I am working on that is called the Positive Force Team. You can go to thepositiveforceteam.org, sign up for our newsletter, or I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna pass the mic to our guest speaker who's calling from San Telmo, Buenos Aires, that I love San Telmo. I used to live there and I miss it so much. Leandro, let us know a little bit about yourself. What exactly do you do at Power to Fly? And then what you're excited to share with us in this next hour.
Amazing to hear from you, from everybody that is joining to this Chat and Learn. So happy to this is my first one. So I'm kind of nervous, but I'm here for it. And it's important to spark meaningful conversations around diversity beyond just the theory or the technical terms, you know, just to talk about people, humanity, how do we create better companies toward the future, more responsible brands, better leadership. So it's really interesting. And that's what I have been doing for the last 6 years. along over 50 global brands here around Latin America, creating contents, narratives, development trainings. So it's really interesting. Just to kick us off, to connect diversity, and I'm not talking about inclusion or equity yet, but to connect diversity with innovation, transformation, future of the businesses that we do. How do we as companies impact in our families, our communities, the places where we are doing our businesses, right? So there is plenty to talk from down, and it's really interesting to take action, not just to, you know, have conversations and feel better and that's it. If not, we can always do better. We can always, our companies can always do better and make and take better decisions. So if we are aware of that, we can start talking there of being authentic at work and that kind of things. You were okay. What do you think about what I'm saying? Just to know, to have your feedback.
I love that you are bringing it back to us to just because diversity is a huge concept, right? And how do we put that into action? Because we can go for days speaking about it, but I love that you're saying, okay, let's reflect personally and then try to move forward without just talking about it. So practicing what we preach and putting the thoughts and the conversations into action. So I'm following. Thank you.
Absolutely. And it's not easy. And it's not something that we are going to be saying, right? We are an inclusive company, like we have a title. No, this is always, we are always reframing diversity, if I can say, you know, perhaps during all of these years, we were talking about ERGs, advocates, in terms of clusters, right? So gender, LGBT or pride, disability, but we need to see the bigger picture, the intersectionality, how everything is connected. And when we get to the roots of that, we can really impact working culture. If we think our companies from 5 years from now, I think that the main focus should be there in terms of everything, sustainability, everything, how the consumers, the people are going to be using our services or wanting to come to work with us and stay and feel safe. So I think that's really interesting about all of these topics that we are going to be talking today. So there is plenty of information about how empowering diversity is bringing more innovation, transformation, you know, like transformation is not something that we tend to see transformation as I'm transforming, I get it, I'm already transformed, you know, but transformation is a continuous line and work, and you know, when we try to grab different kind of tools and have agile mindset, growth mindset around diversity, you know, to make the right questions. So I think from this first bubble here of empowering all types of diversity, I would say empowering all types of identities, you know, to bring identity to the table, to bring intersectionality, because we can be talking about, and then when it's time of the hiring process, we keep attracting the same people from the same backgrounds, the same colleges, you know, so it's like a clubhouse. So we need to also see that diversity is already in our companies. So it's all about how do we communicate, how we represent them, what's the tone, what's the narrative, what am I questioning, what am I assuming? So the advantage of actively empowering all types of identities and diversity itself is a long road, and this goes cross company, cross business, cross teams, to everybody, to each person, you know, from the person that is opening the door on the building. Sometimes we only see like KPIs, and we can reach that. If we set a goal and we say, okay, we want more women on leadership, for example, perfect, double click. What kind of woman are we talking about? You know, like then we have like the story of the only one, you know, there is plenty of stories of being like, I'm the only woman in this position. So it's really important to take advantage to start asking questions. So just to leave it there so we can move forward, because we can keep talking, and I would love to share the experience. We need to reframe how we see and how we are treating the diversity projects that we currently have on our companies. We need to start thinking about people experience, right? How is people getting this information? Because perhaps I have been for the last, I don't know, 2 years giving unconscious bias training just only from theory, but tomorrow I'm going to forget about theory. How is people connecting with bias, you know? Because when you know what a bias is, it's not unconscious anymore. So what am I gonna do, you know, in all of the processes that we have inside of the companies, how we hire, how we communicate, how our legal teams are aware of things that the company should keep up, and why is all of this is important for people to know. Some of the questions that people pre-submitted were about people being odd or awkward about, you know, having processes inside of the companies on diversity. I also think that to adjust this working culture, we need to shift from this, I want to like take it to the emotional side, but we need to give people tools and information to growth mind, you know, in terms of diversity. It's not just about how you feel, or you can be free, you can feel free in our company, you can be yourself, talking about the true price of being yourself, right? Not everybody feels safe to be themselves, because this is not something that we have been taught since childhood. Because authenticity and talking about singularity is not just a simple narrative. It's what the people has to bring and offer and, you know, bring to the table. We need to create as companies unique solutions for our customers, for our, in all the chain that we are. So prioritizing that is to actually start reframing language. When we talk about inclusion, we can double click there. So who is including who? There is this term that I hear since the 90s. I think that it's diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being invited to dance. But perhaps I go to the party and I want to dance by myself, or I can join other people and we can create, or I can have my own party, you know. In all of these terms, everybody has something to offer and it's really great. Some people have like a perspective from the philanthropy side. Some people have a perspective from the emotional side, and everything is welcome as soon as we have goals, you know, and not just to show, but to sustain and maintain across time and across everything that we do. Some pictures just to, and please, if there is any questions, come off mute, ask. You know, this was just to connect what we are talking about, this, that pride is not just something that we do on a calendar, that it's amazing, but it's to keep reminding that we are talking of, I don't know, our sons, daughters, you know, neighbors, other persons that we work. So, and it's not something that, oh, if I have a LGBTQI plus identity in front of me, I'm going to behave. No, it's how we think about pride. When we say pride, perhaps some people just think of a gay boy or male, a colorful flag, and forgets about all of the other identities, you know. So we need to enlarge what we know around sexuality, identity, self-expression, self-identification, in terms of everything, and moving beyond labeling, you know. So
Yes. I want to chime in because I'm loving all the things that you're saying, and I just want to reinforce a couple of things.
please.
that really make me just excited, because I can see how it is connected to the importance of emotional intelligence and developing our emotional intelligence. So, I mean, clearly, we're seeing a lot of people practice lip service, which is a practice because it is, you're clearly deciding to not embrace true belonging, right? I think the word belonging for me also entails that you're not alone. So, I mean, we're never really alone. Even if you live in a studio apartment, you have to leave sometimes to do things. And in that
Absolutely.
moment, how do you, you know, when there is another, I think I can't remember the exact phrase, but when you have two, you have everything. So you have
Absolutely.
all that, you have immediately, you can consider that you are not alone. And so, what does belonging mean? And how can you practice belonging in a way that you know, that you feel like you belong wherever you go? How are you practicing that in the workplace, for example? Are you practicing active listening? Are you taking time to connect with your sense of self? I'm passionate about speaking about the importance of decolonizing the mind, the body, decolonizing our subtle energies. And what does that mean? That just means we just need to like deconstruct basically everything, which allows us to cut out these taboos of you can't be your full self at work. And you know, you can't, we don't have time to hear stories, and stories are basically the fabric of how we are connected with each other. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for giving us your perspective on that, and for sharing these beautiful pictures here that you're sharing on the screen.
No, absolutely. And this is something that we grew on since from childhood, you know. So when we talk about authenticity, it has to be with our voice, with what do we have to say? How do we say it? Being aware of this. And just I bring the pictures to realize, because at some point, this is my experiences, right? Right. But I realized that everything started at home. And then what do we do with all of the experiences that we had? And we can look up for many ways, but it's right just to know who you are, where do you want to go. If it, I don't know, I grew up hearing that if I get tattoos I wouldn't get hired anywhere, that, you know, all of these things that has to do with who you are and how do you express. And that's why when is it shocking or we think that perhaps some person has too many personality, you know, or it's too going for it. But we grew up seeking authenticity. These are all things that we hear all the time, like be yourself, be authentic, let it be, let the child be, you know, like what this that means. Because at some point, being yourself, when we talk about the price, can be like too much, can put you in danger if you are not in the right environment, in a safe environment, family, school, club, sport, you know, like in every activity. So then it's when perhaps at some point you can started hearing all of these things like tone it down, don't be so loud, you know, you don't need to be like, does it have to, do you have to show that much that, you know, like, but this is my way of talking and speaking and moving. And this is when mental health comes into the room, right? If I have to go to work and nobody has to notice that I'm gay or, you know, this kind of things, what kind of solutions and what kind of talent can I bring to my team to, you know, and it all comes down to respect, right? Like people, when I'm talking about when I'm talking with leaders inside of all of these companies like Walmart, Viacom, Accenture, American Airlines, like huge companies, we're always talking about that the first thing that we need to realize that it's that I don't need to love you to respect you. And we talk so much about empathy, you know, but we need to start realizing this. It's all about human rights, respect, people experience. We are all making other persons feel, think, perceive. We are showing them, we are a mirror, actually. So how much do we know the the people that we work with every day. Besides if she's married or he's married or not, if they have kids or not, how much do we know? I have had experiences inside of companies that they have checked all the boxes on diversity, and they have all the the procedures, right, to talk about violence, gender violence, and that kind of things. And then they had a partner in the team that was killed by her husband, and nobody knew. And all of these things that being working with someone for 7 years, and you're like, there was no room for her to say anything. And this has an impact on everything. So being authentic means to be open, to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be there. Some top management or managers, sometimes they I don't know, they ask, but I'm working on finance, for example, but do I have to like be so soft and be treating people like HR, you know, like, yes, you are working with people. And most of it, if you don't care about that, it has to be with your personal branding, with your professional branding, with the staples that you are creating on your career path, your professional, you know. So this is true. And we are reinventing ourselves all the time. But we need to start realizing that everything has been already placed, as you said, when we talk about deconstruct, everything has been already placed in our minds, and everything grew in terms of who we should be, how we should act, you know, what do we have to achieve to feel successful, happy, and we bring all of these things to work. If you cannot go to work and be at peace with good mental health, being aware that you are working with another human beings, that they have their own experiences, their own stories. So all of these things that we have been told since childhood, we bring them into, and it's really painful when you start realizing that. And then, for example, when I started working, I used to assume, like, because I'm gay and I like to wear makeup or express myself this way, with the package comes that some colleagues are going to make some jokes or are going to be calling me some names, you know, at some point. And I was like, well, this is like the price, you know. But then it was like, no, this is not the price. This is who I am. As you choose to, you know, like use that clothes and talk this way. And it's really interesting, all of the educational part of talking about authenticity, like inviting people to think, right? The way you think is, this is are your thoughts, you know, this is who you are. And this is when we have a fixed mind on or a growth mind, you know, like trying to always be. And inside of the companies, if we do not make questions, we do not move forward. We lose competitive skills. We lose talents. If you have any questions or something, please let me know. But, and this is important too, like people change to all of our community. You know, it's not just about the next step on your career. It's who you are becoming, who you are going to be when you achieve that. What do you need to? That's when authenticity comes in and transform into a skill to know yourself. What do you have to bring to the table? What do you still have to learn? Perhaps realizing that where you're working at is not your place. And that's tough. And that's why we have Power to Fly, to find another amazing jobs. So, but this is why it's important to talk about diversity, authenticity, singularity, personality of the people, to keep it in mind. In changing times, the world is changing, as I just said, like society, language, culture. Everything has to be with technology. Today we have access to everything. 5-year-old kid can see, I don't know, RuPaul Drag Race on their phones, and they can feel like they, like, this is me, this is who I am. But then all of these bias and stereotypes comes our way. So I don't know. I don't know what everybody on the room is thinking or feeling, but I think that we always know really deep down if we are really being authentic, if we are doing an acting, if we are being performative. I have to be this kind of manager, like, and we disassociate the person, the identity from the professional side of us, and we bring everything of who we are when we go to work. The price is that when you leave that door open, and when you show yourself, when you talk, when you speak your mind, the society is not set in that way. So that's why it's important to create these environments inside of our companies. And that's when being authentic at work, when we said people show up as who you are, like, you can be yourself, you are accepted. When you are accepted, like, who is accepting who? So we need to really start focusing on responsible communication. What kind of messages beyond pictures are we putting into market? Because we are creating ideas, narratives in our customers. So it's really interesting to think this and to take the masks off, because we are all people. I remember talking with a C-level manager, and I was like, am I talking to the director or am I talking to Robert? I don't know, with whom am I talking? Because of the kind of responses that I was getting, or the replies, or the attitude, it was, we were, if you are not the father of your 2 daughters and the director of human resources, who are you? So it all comes down to that, and it's not easy, and it's something that we need to keep on fostering, creating great conversations, we are obsessed with measuring, believing that we value for what we know, but nobody runs their leadership skills from their MBAs, right? We impact from who we are. I mean, MBAs, PhDs, all of the degrees, they all give us context and tools, but it matters what we do with all of these things to inspire, to keep our teams motivated, to keep improving what we are doing, thinking, what can I add to what I'm doing? And there is always room to create, I think, from our authenticity at work. There is when we can create unique solutions, we can update everything that we do. Oh, but I have this on paper already, like, I have this, I don't remember the exact word, right? But I have this manifesto of diversity, okay? Or I have this, I don't know, yeah, this I'm just thinking, right? This manifesto of diversity, okay, but when was the last time you checked what is written there, to who is speaking? Because perhaps what you are already like preaching is from 3 years, so you need to keep updated to be ahead of the market, to be an attractive brand, to continue to be, this pioneer companies that we want to become, to keep attracting talent. From 5 years from now, all of the teenagers are going to start working with us. So we need to, so when we talk about generations, intergenerations, ageism, we are not just everything has to be with being authentic at work, we are not just talking about, this is a centennial, this is a millennial. It's beyond that. It has to be with relationship with power that these people are going to be having, because of the access, the technology, the connectivity. So I invite all the people, all the professionals, all the companies to see beyond our own company, beyond our network, to search on LinkedIn to see what is happening on the world. You know, perhaps we are in Europe, perhaps we are in Canada, perhaps we're in Mexico, Chile, but the world is so huge. And me working here at Powers to Fly and having the opportunity to see like the global perspective from it, it's really empowering to see, to take better decisions as companies on creating, on fostering a diverse workforce towards the future. So that's in terms of being authentic at work. If there is any questions here, we have the pre-submitted Q&A. So Mariela, you will tell me.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing your presentation and for sharing sharing with us about your journey and being transparent about it. And also, I mean, just feeling the activism behind the work that you do. It's very palpable, and people are throwing emojis and digital confetti in the chat. So I know that people are resonating. All right, so let's roll into the questions that you all have submitted previous to the chat. Leandro, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yes.
And we'll just go one by one. And folks, if you're joining live and you hear your question come up, let us know that you're here. We would just, love to get that, personal time with you. If you don't hear your question come up, but you are here with us and maybe something comes to mind in the moment, feel free to drop those in the chat box or again, hop off mute. All right, so let's get a little technical here.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about interviews. This first question reads, could you please give us tips for a successful and inclusive interview?
Yes, it's being aware that we have, sometimes we focus on what kind of questions do I have to ask? Oh, I'm not asking this kind of, it's not just about the questions that you ask. It's more of how you relate to the person, how you are making the person see how it's to be working with you, to make them feel that they are already working with you. You know, you need to be, and the interview process is just the beginning. I mean, the whole the hiring process is really long. From, I don't know, some companies perhaps they approach and they say, but we are having this flyer out on LinkedIn asking for, I don't know, some sort of group of talent, and we are not getting any applies, but it's not just what you are putting out, is where are you searching? What kind of bridges are you building with other communities to bring talent? It's not just putting an announcement out and waiting for people to be there and show up. Because when we talk about communities, all of the communities around diversity, I don't know, here in Latin America, we can ask, for example, if trans people seek for jobs at huge companies. They don't. They died before 35 or turning 30 years. So there is a whole structure besides what I ask. So I would start saying that a good tip is to know, where am I looking for talent? If am I looking, I don't know, if we are always looking for young talent, for example, and they are all the same age, the same school, start to diversifying, and they start approaching by their talents and not just the skills. When a person comes to an interview, they already know that what they have to offer. We are not going to be, and this is important, so we are not going to be hiring people that they don't know what they are doing. We are hiring by talents. We are not seeing gender, we are seeing talent. We are not seeing disability, we are seeing talent, so it's keeping on reminding of that, I would say.
I love that. And I would also just add, from my experience, if you are already on a team and you see that, maybe there's some lack of time or creativity to find really diverse folks, or to try to bring more inclusion into events or things like that, speak up and don't be afraid to speak up. And because I think that it will be very valuable for everyone. And in my personal experience, for example, I remember bringing up often at Power to Fly, like, let's go to HBCUs, which are historically Black colleges and universities. Like, there are tons of folks who want to be hired there. There are tons of beautiful minds there. Let's start to reach out to this specific demographic. So if you're on the team, maybe you're not the one that's the hiring manager or the recruiter, but you can totally like write to that recruiter and say, like, I used to
reach out.
Reach out. I used to go to a HBCU in this case, in my example, and I know that they would be more than willing to, fill your pipeline. I don't know. And then you're making their job easier. You are connecting the dots. At that point, it's more enriching because you also have a connection. And I want to encourage people to speak up, even if it's just a simple message. It might not need to be a 30-minute conversation with, this is why I think this is important. I found that people were willing to immediately take that strategy. So maybe you aren't the hiring manager, maybe you aren't the recruiter,
Absolutely.
but you can totally share your voice.
And it's take action, and your action is not going to be the same than my action. So that is really to know who to speak with, to choose wisely, like inside of your company, to whom to talk, to approach, to bring all of these ideas. So I think that when you feel yourself, your authentic self, you start bringing ideas again, like to solve things, to improve things that perhaps are beyond your task, your daily task. And that's when I don't know, when people don't want to leave, when you hear people that they are saying like, and that are influencers, then go out there, like, and it's really, and you can feel when the culture is nurtured by all of these perspectives. So when they are just not, so it's really interesting what you are saying.
Yes. All right. So let's move on to this next question here. Again, if this is your question, let us know that you're on the line with us. How can we create safe spaces at work? Any tips for getting HR involved?
Hearing, not assuming, asking more, reaching for different kind of contents to keep enlarging your knowledge. There are tons of things out, like ebooks, podcasts, series. We have access to on everything. So, and start, like I used to, when I started to work on intersectionality, I had this calendar, and each day I had a topic to read at least something. And by the end of the month, I don't know, I read books or heard some, 3 podcasts, and then writing down. So that, as a person, just to start creating and having tools, because at first we want to make everything happy and start creating the culture and getting everybody involved. But we need to have answers, I think, because when we reach to a manager, when we reach to another person, another team, they are going to have answers. They are going to perhaps put you some barriers up, and I think that the key, and this is the condiment, I think this is key. We need always, and this is what had been working on me, right? Working along all of this company. We need to always make them see the connection with innovation, future of work, to see beyond what you believe around diversity, talk, and this is a C-level conversation, right? Talking about professional branding. It's really interesting to connect with that, because perhaps some people will, or some HR managers will connect with the society, perspective from it, or the emotional part, or, like the love and but to me, and perhaps this is going to be fire, but we are working inside of a private company, and we have goals, and we never have to forget that we all have the privilege and the opportunity to be working at these places, and we can create change from being just responsible companies towards diversity. So I was giving a talk the other day, and I was like, we are not talking about diversity to mess up with your business. We are here to make it, better. Because sometimes people think that they are losing because we are adding perspectives, and it has nothing to do with that. When we talk about diversity, we can see, I don't know, beyond our fence, like, oh, there was another ways to be, to see, to create businesses, to, I don't know. I think it has to be with that, to know how to read our our customers from the other end, and creating an impact from there.
Absolutely. And that
Because,
empathy.
sorry, just one little thing, because then managers will say, you need to attract the best talent. Well, but let me see how are we doing first, and realizing too, perhaps we are just in the beginning. Perhaps we are not ready yet to do some moves, but when we take the move, we take the move. If I'm going to be calling some, I don't know, a ONG or some, foundation from outside just to bring them to talk and then give nothing in return, that's not responsible. That there are no humans right there. So we need to really get involved and really realize, okay, we can do this. And perhaps this year we can just do just one little change, but that.
I love, so you're speaking about, the change that is necessary, which I totally agree 1000%. I would love to hear your response to this question about the future. So how does the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion look in your opinion?
No more clusters. No more talking about being 2 years, talking about just letters, L, lesbian, B, G, gay. No, it's moving forward. It's seeing the intersectionality. It's starting. It needs to be. We have been talking about diversity since the 90s, and at some point, we keep doing the same, thinking that perhaps with only ERGs or advocates, we will, create the change that the company can make, but perhaps just stays there filling, a calendar during the whole year, but not creating change. To me, the future has to be with that. If we want to keep being pioneers, important companies, having responsible brands, and people wanting to choose us as brands and places to go to work, if not, we're going to start losing talent, having less innovation. To me, it has to be with intersectionality, having this way to see everything and not just but I don't know, the future. You say the future because today we have to solve other things that that's why we have all of these groups, moving. We are talking about the future. To me, the future is like in 15, 20 years. It's not in 2 years, I'm changing everything. The future. We need to move beyond just theory. This is just my thought, we are talking about human beings. Easy said than done, actually. We need education, intense education. We need intense voices. We need to start perhaps shaking ourselves. We do not have to be seeking for voices that feel just right and good, just to hear other voices, other stories. I don't know. I think that's what's all about in terms of the future. Yes.
So one of the things
and being accountable of making changes on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I love that you're bringing up is moving from theory to practice, which of course we can speak all day at the table while the world is changing and effectively make no change because we are talking about theories all the time. So this question kind of leans towards, activating that practice and this education piece that you mentioned before as well. So it reads, how would you advise dealing with current employees that don't show enthusiasm about new diversity, equity, and inclusion policies or initiatives? Would you recommend any type of training, for example? And I feel like that question leads to, practice, coming out of theory, going into practice, at least from the training perspective. You might be reading books and exchanging ideas with people, but I think the expectation is that you start to put that into practice. I would love to hear your reflections.
Yes, or at least saying your opinion. Perhaps I have trainings that there are, I don't know, 60 people on the room, and 45 say, no, I don't have nothing to say. I'm just here learning. No, you always have something to say. Just to, I think that has to be with that, to make them feel that their voice needs to be heard. Like, if you don't care, I need to know why. I would like to know why. How is everything comes to terms in how you approach to people, how you create this space to be. And I would say that we do in terms of diversity, we do not have to be convincing people either. So I'm not going to be like running behind you, because as I'd say, if I have this, I don't know, politic inside of the company that approves to, I don't know, do not approve any kind of discrimination, and it's going to be, I'm not losing anything. You are not losing anything. Everything is for better. So I think that now, if we need that fox to be there because they are going to be speaking out outside of the company and they do not have to mess up, we need to come to terms with the educational. Being adults, we still keep being educated and learning from each other, so I think that doing trainings is really good, but also finding another ways. Perhaps it's not having a one-on-one, perhaps it's creating different channels, creating podcasts, creating different kind of interviews, being creative. This is what it's missing too. And it doesn't matter if you are in a company that it's on finance or retail, I think it's the way we deliver those trainings and the channels we use to reach people. So that's my answer.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left. I want to just
Perfect.
see if anyone wants to hop off of mute, or voice a question or a reflection that maybe you would like to just contribute to the last couple of minutes of this conversation. So I'll hold for a light pause to see if someone wants to take this chance to hop off of mute. We would love to hear from you. Sometimes this works. Sometimes people need the extra encouragement. If not, I've got more questions, so don't worry. All right. Actually, I would love to hear you speak about. Oh, yes, go ahead.
No, and I was thinking about like taking action. That's why I'm talking about decision making. When changing is not happening is when we are not making the right decisions. Perhaps realizing that we have been working on this strategy for the last 3 years, but we need to reframe it now. We need to update it. We need to perhaps, I don't know, get some budget to get some better contents or better channels, or develop new ways to do it. I'm thinking, right? It's so hard to take decisions, but when we are in the top of the funnel, in the top of the hierarchy inside of the company, we need to have real conversations. I think that people sometimes are afraid, and that's when but when you connect everything to business, it's when you see the shift. And then when you give trainings to the whole company and you talk about diversity in a more light way, can work too. But we need to adapt the conversations to the teams that we are talking to. I think that's really important too.
Wow. So you've said a lot already just about practicing what we preach, right? Making sure we're not just having lip service, But this specific question speaks to that about being performative activists, or like not having lip service, like practicing what we preach. And this question reads, what can we do as DEI advocates to avoid being performative activists?
That's tricky. I don't know if I get that question. What did you understood for that question?
So from what I understand, being a performative activist is saying, yes, we practice diversity and inclusion. Yes, we want all voices to be heard, but that's just so that the outside public sees it. So it's like putting a mask on, like in one of your initial slides, you're saying, you're trying to check the boxes to show people that you're practicing this, and that is a performance. It's a play. It's a charade.
Absolutely.
So
that's when we don't want to realize that, yes, we are going to need sponsors that are going to be just there to be present and to give just, like the welcoming, and that's it. When we put pressure on people on being this way, that can feel, that can see, that shows outside of the company. Everything is about communication. So, and how we behave and act. And I don't know if as we all want to create and do and change and make change, I think everything is welcome, and all of the, I don't know, all of the ways to create change are okay. I don't know. I never did a performance, so I don't know how, but I can see when people are just saying it. And if we're having a real conversation and you're like, perhaps I don't believe this, but you need to say it, because if not, we need to find the right people. And when actually this really happens too, when you really start working on diversity in terms of practice, and because, no, I don't want discrimination. Well, but what do you do when you have a discrimination episode in your company? Do you fire that person? Do you just have a red line to talk? Like, how do we create this sense of having a safe space to go to work? And if you realize that you are being performative, I don't know, that's on you.
Yeah, you need to do some self-work there, calling out folks who are doing that. I feel like, also it's great. You're showing an initiative because you realize it's important. But it takes more than just realizing, and it takes, true putting one foot in front of the other, and not just sitting back and crossing fingers and hoping people, join your initiative. Marcela writes, impressive presentation, conversation. Congratulations and interesting. And actually, we've got about 4 minutes. Leandro, I wanted to ask you on a personal level, just to also round out and wrap up this conversation. Can you speak about maybe one of your most satisfying, gratifying moments in working in this DEI space? And you can pick from any time in your career journey, but I would love to hear from you just a bit of storytelling. So what stands out in this moment? I know I'm putting you on the spot too, but is there a moment that you can share with us that you were like, oh, I feel grateful to have opened eyes, or have my eyes be open, and to just really have helped move DEI initiatives?
Yes, absolutely. It was like, I can also say that it was like 8 years ago, when I realized that I was having a coffee at a coffee shop, and two girls walked by holding hands, and I checked twice, and I asked myself, what am I looking twice? And realizing that I didn't know much. People think that we practitioners we always knew, because we are, like, these are things that we keep developing. And I'm really amazed about how my way of thinking, of seeing the world, or of perceiving myself, or I don't know, working on diversity made me find myself in many ways, being around many conversations, and all of these things keeps building all this authentic, way of like being curious and wanting to know more and share with people and talk. I think that that's the best part in approaching people in this curious way, but not I don't know, it's really fulfilling also to see people that it's saying like, I don't know, 1 year, perhaps we have been having trainings for 1 year and say like, feeling that the company are educating them and having this, perhaps, I don't know, I have been in talks with over thousands, 800 people, and just to plant some seeds and leave people with just one thought. At first I wanted to change everything. I wanted to change all of the companies, all of the cultures, and I hit a wall that was really hard, and it like took me down emotionally. It drains me. And my boyfriend was saying me like, you're not going to change, like, I don't know, this huge company just with one talk or with 1 year, strategy. So that's why we need people, we need allies, we need more people joining on all of these diversity talks and strategies, and to take action, to create and keep training the teams inside of the company. So I think that's really interesting and empowering. And perhaps some people say like, oh, but this is just for now. No, this is not for now. Diversity is here, and we are still, as soon as the technology moves forward, we're gonna be talking about more about diversity than ever.
Yes. Oh, what a beautiful way to end this conversation. As you said before, we are never done learning. And I think that you so beautifully said that in the way that, one of your highlights is that you're continuing to learn and you're planting seeds, and also taking a step back and not being so attached to that, and having hope that people will water that seed and move forward. So Leandro, thank you so much. Can you remind people, our time is up, but can you remind people
Yes.
how they can be in touch with you, how they can connect with you if they want to continue the conversation?
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn for sure. By my name, you can find me at Power to Fly as well. And I'm working at Storytellers Group here in Latin America. So we are all over the place. On LinkedIn, we can talk. So thank you. Thanks for listening and being here, and to all the community that is going to be seeing this talk in the future, if you are here from the future.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, everyone, thank you for joining us. Leandro, thank you so much for sharing knowledge. We'll see you on the next Chat and Learn. Ciao.
Absolutely.
Thank you.